Welcome to the Well-ish podcast, sponsored by Iowa Specialty Hospital, where real life meets better health. We're your hosts. I'm Derek.
I'm Anthony.
Let's dive in. Welcome in. This is the Well-ish podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Derek, and that's your other host.
I'm Anthony.
It's Anthony. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I'm Anthony. I'm also a registered dietitian here.
As am I, registered dietitian, and if you're feeling like you want to get in the gym, certified personal trainer as well.
Just had to throw that in there.
I just had to one up you just a little bit.
I see how it is.
So yeah, this is the Well-ish podcast. This is episode 2. Super excited to be back here for a second episode. They renewed us, which is great.
Past the pilot.
Yeah, exactly. We're on for the next 7 seasons with you guys. No, they don't. That's not true yet. Hopefully.
Yeah, we're lucky to get the 3rd episode here.
Yeah.
Let's just keep it.
Let's make it through 2 and see where it goes.
There we go.
Yeah. So it was super fun chatting last time about habits, which was great. Small habits, little habits, how they add up over time. So this time we're kind of taking that one step further. We're going to talk about the importance of tracking of many varieties, right? Yeah. So we've been chatting for the last almost hour and a half about like, okay, what do we want to talk about? How do we want to put this together? And we realized that you can track pretty much everything. And so hopefully we'll try and make it somewhat simple and kind of hash out our thoughts on that tracking.
Yeah, I mean, we don't really have like a good roadmap for this conversation, but I think we'll have plenty to talk about just based on the last hour of us, going through ideas.
Yeah.
And to your point, like as far as tracking goes, yeah, you can literally track almost everything at this time in the world, right? I just saw this article on how this company they've created a device that goes into your toilet and it can track your stool. So
that's crazy.
It'll tell you supposedly, what kind of bacteria are in it. Is it a healthy stool? And I don't even know what else. I was just kind of amazed by that. So.
No, for sure. And like as dietitians, if people didn't know, that's more of a common topic than one might think as you talk about nutrition with people and that kind of thing. So
your stool is incredibly important.
Tracking your stool.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Well-ish podcast.
All right, maybe we should start somewhere else.
Yeah, maybe we go to food journaling.
Okay.
Right. So I think that's one that a lot of people try. A lot of people start and stop and start and stop again over and over. Right. I think if I could pin down one thing that I see the most with food journaling as people track their food is it stresses them out. Right. And I think that added stress just it makes it really challenging to kind of get down to exactly what the food journal really is, which is a reflection tool. Right. I think that's missed, that's lost with a lot of people, is that the reflection side of things is probably the most important part of keeping track of your food. And so, that's when I'm working with my patients and clients, and that's kind of what we always try and talk about. It's like, okay, you've written these things down. How are you reflecting on this? Like, what can we do together to reflect on the food that you're having and how it makes you feel? And, what are your emotions around the foods, and like kind of just trying to bring it all together and using that food journal as the tool.
Yeah. And I think one thing I'd like to also split apart there is, food journaling versus food tracking.
Interesting.
Right.
Yeah.
I often think of food journaling, and I'll describe it this way as well, like as actually maybe a handwritten journal, or adding in some sort of like description to maybe how you feel about it, using the actual journal technique to it. And then food tracking, which I think is what we're going to get to as well, a little bit more in depth, is like actually putting numbers and like science and just like hard data to it, right? Both of those come with the stress of, 1, keeping up and doing it, right? Yeah. 2, whether you are journaling about it or just looking at the numbers, it just gives you feedback that inevitably you're going to um, get some sort of response from yourself on it, right? You're maybe going to say, oh, geez, I felt bad eating this, or I felt really great eating that. Or you're going to see a number and be like, oh, man, I thought it was going to be a lot worse than that.
Sure.
Or, gosh, the protein content could have been much better,
Yeah.
and where in all of that do you kind of, to your point, take it, reflect on it, and say, okay, yeah, it looks good, or I could be doing better here, or why was it that way?
Mm.
Why do I feel this way?
Yeah.
And how do you then translate that or apply that? I think you used the good word when we were talking earlier. How do you apply that to the next step
Mm.
or the next day, whatever that is?
Yeah. Do you track?
My food?
Yeah.
I do. So I track probably not on a regular basis, definitely not every day.
Oh,
And very
okay.
rarely do I track the entire day. I usually more so track like the first part of my day, because I've realized that for my personal situation, I don't get enough caloric intake sometimes, especially when I'm working and like
Mm-hmm.
very focused, right?
Sure.
So I'll track everything from the time I wake up until usually about dinner time, and then I won't really track anything after that. And that is probably, you know, maybe once a week. And then
Okay.
sometimes, like on average, it'd probably be about 1 to 2 times a week.
Yeah.
But when I do it, it usually happens to be like a couple of days in a row.
Okay. I think that's like so important because when people think of tracking or food journaling or, you know, marking things down in some way, usually they interpret that to mean every day, all the time, constant companion, right? And we've been talking about this a lot, like the all or nothing mentality, right? Which I think can be super helpful in some situations, right? Where you got to kind of go all in and just make it happen. But also, there's most of life where if you are trying to go all in like that, the sustainability of it is pretty low,
Yep.
right? And so living with a food journal or a food tracker as a constant companion can be helpful for a little bit, but I think the way that you use it is a great example of sustainability,
Mhm.
right? It's one of those things that's like, okay, I've done some tracking. I you've done it enough. At one point, I'm sure, did you ever do it? Like, all right, I'm going to do it for a month. Did you ever do that in your life at all, or is that
I don't think I ever made it a full month, but I've
okay?
definitely gone like a full week,
Okay,
if not
okay,
maybe a little bit beyond that. Yeah.
sure. And so during that time, like as it was your constant companion, as you're tracking everything you ate, like did you feel like you were able to reflect effectively while it was like that, or was it kind of like once you got to the end of your week and a half or whatever it was, then you were able to look back?
Yeah, it was much more of an evolution. And what I mean by that is I think when I first started doing it, I didn't necessarily take that time to reflect on it. I was just kind of
Mm,
doing it to do it. But one thing to like for my personal situation is I'm very consistent. So like my breakfast and lunch tend to be really like similar to the day, like day after day, especially Monday through Friday. And the reason I bring that up is because once I, get that down, then it's
mm-hmm.
pretty easy to know what I'm getting in or
Sure.
what I'm doing. But to go back to the point of it being an evolution is, I've now been probably tracking fairly regularly for the last 2 years, I would say.
Mm,
And then a little bit before that, but most more so in the last 2 years. But looking back and as I continue to like gather more data and also counsel patients,
mm,
that's when I started to piece together, okay, what am I doing? When am I finding myself like eating these foods or reaching for maybe something that's not in that consistent dietary plan? And then what does that mean for me? Right. One point I want to add to that too is, you know, when it comes to like if we have, let's see, what's a good example? Let's say a treat at work.
sure. Yeah.
I don't overthink that primarily because I know what I'm doing the rest of the day. It's okay if I have a little bit of like one treat here or there. Like I try
Mm,
not to let that weigh on me because I have tracked, because I have done that reflection over the course of the 2 years, whatever the case is. And it allows me the freedom, or at least like the, um, what's the word I'm looking for there? Just not feeling bad about choosing to have that office
yeah.
treat.
Yeah. Like it's not departing from what your goals are,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
Because like you not only by using the tracking, you've not only kind of decided, okay, here's what I know makes me feel good, but also you've allowed for wiggle room where you're like, okay, because you know that you track, and then this donut doesn't make me feel bad. Like I feel the same if I
Yeah.
have one, right? If I
Yep.
if I had three, that I don't know, might cause some issues. Like who knows, right? And I think and to me that's like the beauty of the tracking. Some of the consistency that can come with it is like there's almost freedom in the structure,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
And so by kind of having a little bit more accurate understanding of the things that are going in your body, then it allows you a little more freedom outside of that. Because I think the biggest part is you know what makes you feel good. And you've worked really hard to say, like, all right, this is the food that I eat that helps me get through my workouts, helps me get through my day. I feel, mentally clear. I can do all the things I want to do. That's the reflection side,
Mm.
right? I mean, maybe you did it almost inadvertently too,
Mm-hmm.
where you've thought through it. And knowing you, obviously, you're somebody who, like, you have goals, you have physical goals, work goals, all those things. And so if those weren't progressing in the way that you wanted, you made a change,
Yeah.
right? And so I think that's the reflection
Yeah.
piece that we're talking about.
Yeah, and I liked what you said there, like the freedom and the structure. That's a
Mm-hmm.
pretty cool thought. And yeah, and to your point, I think evolution is like the word I really like to use right there. Is that I don't really like put stress in the process of food tracking.
Mm-hmm.
Right, I just kind of did it and like added it to the part of my life, and then like you mentioned, I wasn't necessarily thinking about it or like going to my phone to look back through and like try to determine what made me feel good and what didn't make me feel good.
Sure.
It just kind of naturally flowed, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's something to be said about that. Like, I do think that there needs to be some sort of structure in that process at the start
Yeah.
to get it going, but then kind of just let it flow.
Yeah.
Take your time doing it.
Yeah.
So now I want to ask you,
Sure.
do you food track?
I don't.
Okay.
So I don't usually track my food. I would say every 3 to 4 months, I will do a couple of days. But to me, I wouldn't call it off. For me, that's not often enough to kind of have the consistency that I would ask for from my patients or
Mm.
my clients, right? Where it's like, okay, this is kind of how I feel on a normal day-to-day basis. I track generally to like when I do sit down to do some of that tracking, it's usually more so just um, out of curiosity
Mm.
than check in, if that makes sense. Like every once, it'll hit like about every 3 to 4 months, it'll hit me like, I wonder how much I'm eating in a day. And so then I'll track out of curiosity just to see. Um, my my diet is I'm pretty consistent in what I eat. It's not I have it it varies at times, right? But for the most part, I'm eating a similar breakfast, similar lunch, similar type dinner. We mix things around. There's different recipes, there's all kinds of things, but um I would say that, in my own kind of like we'll call it, I don't know, food journey, sure. Um the tracking hasn't been a constant. I think the biggest thing that I see with tracking is that how helpful it can be. And so honestly, it's probably something that I would benefit from doing a little more consistently. Um, about a year and a half ago, I really focused on tracking, and it was for like 2 weeks, and it was very helpful. Um, but then I think, and this is something that we've talked about too, and this will kind of take me into my next tracking experience that I do a little more consistently. Um, After a couple of weeks of doing it, I kind of just stopped doing it, right? And it was helpful during that 2 weeks, and it continued to inform my eating for a while. Um, so it's not like that one experience was just over. I kept going back to it and using it, oftentimes to help get me going in my day a little bit more, because I remembered how I felt when I had certain foods and how much I had. So I would say that experience did inform me for a little while. So it's probably something that I could do again
Yeah.
to keep moving forward, right? Because I'm a year and a half older now. Life's different. Life changes. Things are different. So you just got to kind of keep evolving with it. But in terms of the kind of ending the tracking, something that I do track a little more frequently is my exercise, my workouts. Um,
Because you're a CPT.
I would say, all right. But no, I would say like that has been an interesting journey there in terms of what works and what doesn't. Because even though I do try and teach people about these things, I go through a lot of the same consistency struggles, I would say, that my patients do, right? And so the number of notes I have in my phone that are like, all right, I'm going to start doing Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday of a workout. And now I'm going to do Monday, Wednesday, Saturday, right? Those are my 3 days for my workouts or whatever it might be. Like I create the plan, I pick the workouts, and being a CPT, I do feel like I have, the knowledge to build myself a plan. So I do, and then struggle to stick to it.
Yeah.
Right. And so I've got tables and charts and all kinds of things trying to help me figure this out. And finally, like I would say last month, my wife found a really good way of tracking that was super fun for me, that helped keep me a little more accountable, where I was basically just saying, okay, I want to get this many workouts in a month, and I'll just mark them off as I go. Right. And so doing that was super effective, gave me I kind of gamified it a little bit, a goal to shoot for. It was fun. It helped provide a little bit of the space that I needed to find the stuff that I enjoyed doing. Right. Because I think that's part of it too, is like you make this plan of like, all right, I'm going to do this on Mondays, this on Tuesdays, this on Thursdays, this on Saturdays. Right. And you're not giving yourself the wiggle room that you need to find what you love to do. And so it might come back eventually to be like, okay, now that I've kind of found the things I like, okay, I can start to assign them to a specific day. But I wasn't at that point. And so I think having almost the game to play made it more fun. Then I got hurt my back, which was frustrating. And I fell off the tracking, fell off the workouts for a couple of weeks. I'm getting back to it now. But it's one of those things, it's like the tracking hadn't become a habit yet. The game hadn't become a habit yet. So it went away, and that's on me, right?
Yeah.
I gotta figure out how to continue to do that. But I would say that's kind of the thing that I do a little more tracking, thinking about, is my exercise.
Yeah. Yeah. And to summarize that a little bit, because the listeners might get a little lost. It seems like
I got a little lost.
So you were good for almost a month, and then that injury happened.
Yeah.
And because of that injury, you just stopped everything,
Pretty
even
much.
though you could have been doing, some other
Rehab.
auxiliary. Yeah. Right. And been tracking that. Right. But because maybe whatever the case is, you were focused on just getting into the strength training routine or the workout routine, whatever the case is. And that derailment just took you completely off, right? You weren't able to get back on, and now you're navigating getting back on after a few weeks of taking care of letting that back, heal.
Yeah, 100%. And so I think it's an interesting piece of reflection for me to know how much fun I was having, marking off those workouts. And then I got hurt, so big roadblock gets thrown up, and it was like I forgot, like, oh yeah, I don't have to only track those specific things that I was doing. I could still play that game, just with a different form of exercise.
Yeah, and it gets me thinking a little bit about like coaching, right?
Oh yeah,
we were talking about that a little bit earlier, before we started this episode, but I wonder if maybe you would really benefit from having a coach, because from my experience, I run a lot, right? I've talked about that previously, and I like to race still competitively, right? So I track my running, like that's the number one thing that I track most consistently is my running, right? How many miles I run, pace, heart rate, these things. Thankfully, there's apps and things that can do it for myself, but like I'll even add a journal and like write down reflections for each day most days. However, I also coach other high school athletes and then college athletes, right? And a few various other individuals. But the point is even though I coach others, I found that for myself, I could write the plan or I could go throughout the weeks, but I wouldn't execute it to the extent that I would when someone else was writing the workouts for me. It wasn't the lack of knowledge. It wasn't the lack of experience. It was more so like just having that stability in someone else looking over and advising me on
Yeah.
what to do, right? And I still have a say in that. Like, I don't, the coach doesn't tell me what to do. I've had two coaches in my adult life. One was a guy that he coached other friends of mine, and then the other one is now my best friend, right? He writes my workouts, and there's some days where I follow to a T. But let's say, like, for instance, this morning I was supposed to go X amount of miles. I was supposed to go 10
How many are you
miles.
getting?
I was supposed
Thank
to go
you.
10
Thank you.
miles.
Yeah.
But yesterday I had a pretty good workout, and I'm coming off injury as well. And that was 13 miles. So I just knew I needed to feel it out today, and I ended up only going 8.5. So I cut it by 1.5 miles, primarily because, not that I couldn't do the 10, but I just know that I needed to pull back just so I could be better for tomorrow. My point for that is to really explain I still had the coach tell me what to do,
Yeah.
but I have the freedom and the structure to be able to go off of my feeling and say, I just can't quite make the 10. I know that it's going to do me better in the long run.
Yeah.
Right. But with that, I'm really trying to ask you a question. Do you think coaching might be something maybe you should look into to help with that tracking? Right. Because we were talking about this as well. Like, when it comes to tracking, why are you tracking? And then how is that applying to your ultimate goal?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, honestly, I think coaching is probably an awesome next step for me, right? I think that is definitely something that that would benefit me. So if you take it all the way back to the last time I really had a coach, which was probably high school for me, um, I've done some group fitness stuff here and there, like things where there's someone in charge, right? A little bit of personal training that I've done, or have had a personal trainer, but for the most part, high school. And so I feel like at that time, like if you look all the way back to then, it was like there wasn't I wasn't doing reflecting sessions at all. Like if I could have taken some time when I was 16, 17, 18 and been like, okay, what are these things that we're doing? How are they making me better? In what ways are they improving me? Right? I think that bit of reflection then, when I had coaches who were like, all right, let's go. Let's do this. You got to be here at this time. This is what we're doing. Right. And I mean, there's an element of, by having the coach, you have freedom. You don't have to think about it. It's just happening.
Yep.
Right. Which is cool. But if we're talking about sustainability and because we're talking about tracking today. Right. And so if we're talking about how that tracker is super important to reflect on, I think coaching is the same kind of thing where it's like, they're doing the tracking for you, right? And so you still have to do the reflection side of it. I think that's important to remember, that as the athlete, you have to be reflecting on what you do, because at some point, like what you found, like, yes, you have a coach, but you've reflected so much by the journaling and all these things that you know where to push and where not to push, right? And the coach is just that little extra bit of like, hey, you need to do this. And so that pushes you over the edge to get up every morning and go do your workout, and right, because somebody else is kind of expecting a little bit of you. They've written a workout for you. They've put some time in. So it probably gives a little bit of that extra nudge, right? And so I think as you get more and more and more and more experienced, that is kind of what the coach turns into. But it all comes from the reflecting that you did as you were tracking your workouts and seeing how you felt and learning about your own athletic journey, right? Like, and so going back to kind of like the high school coaches who are doing the tracking for you, writing the workouts for you, doing that stuff for you, spending some time in reflection while you have the coach, I think is massively important.
Yep. I totally agree. And I think, to kind of round things out a little bit, when you think about like what we do as a profession, and like if we ask someone to food track or even like talk about like their athletic tracking, we really push that reflection part. Like, oh, have you thought about this? Have you even looked at it? Like, why are you tracking whatever you are tracking? I often think about all these wearables that we have now access to, right? And I've tried a lot of them. Like, I currently have a Garmin.
Yep.
I've tried Whoop. I've thought about trying Aura. I've had different versions of Garmin's. I've been, around, and I've looked into a lot of things. But at the end of the day, the reason why I left Whoop, I thought it was really useful and really impactful. But I started to realize that I knew kind of what impacted my sleep or what
Mm,
helped like workouts or what gave me a better recovery score, So why would I continue to pay for a service that just kept telling me what I already knew,
mm,
And it got to a point where like, yeah, so I'm now wearing my Garmin to track my running. I'm wearing the Whoop to kind of tell me how my recovery was, and it's all kind of telling me the same data, and it got a little overwhelming.
yeah,
So to reduce that, and also for financial reasons too, because it got
sure.
expensive, I
You
got
can't
rid of
just
the
wear it
Whoop.
all. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I got rid of the Whoop, and I come to find out that everything I've learned from the Whoop still, I still like keep track of in a different sort of way,
Sure.
but it gave me the insight.
Mm-hmm.
I got away from being kind of compliant to it. I got the insightfulness
Mm-hmm.
that I needed out of it, and I kind of pushed it aside. And I found something that's a little bit more less expensive,
Sure.
easier to focus on because
Yeah.
obviously I run more than I care about. I care about my sleep, my recovery, obviously, but I don't need that every day.
Sure.
Um, but why do we feel the need to track everything? And then also the
Mm.
things that you are tracking, do you know like how that's being useful? Like what is the use case or, is it impacting you to
Yeah.
the fullest extent that you think that it should be? I feel like a lot of people get into it thinking this is really going to impact my life.
Yeah.
But then again, to your point, without the reflection part, is it truly impacting your life?
Yeah. I mean, because hopefully life is long, right? Like
Hmm.
hopefully just, and that's something that I say too. Like when we're talking about tracking, we're talking about reflecting. It's like hopefully this is going to impact you for the next 70, 80 years. Like I want you to live to be 110. Like that would be awesome. And so I think that's where you just like it's all about reflecting on the things that you're learning and then doing your best to apply the knowledge, just kind of like you've talked about with the wearables that you were trying. Like I mean, maybe you came away from those products knowing more, maybe you didn't, but at least it was something that you could reflect on,
Yep.
right? And I think you just got to learn the lessons, do your best to put it together, try and put it into your life, and um, track to help you grow
Yeah.
instead of just tracking to track.
Yeah. It gets me thinking about, because you mentioned something that maybe you struggle with, you could be better at.
Mm,
So it got me thinking about my strength training.
yeah,
I've really added strength training, especially over the last probably 6 years, um, basically for injury prevention. And so I realized that just really helped me with preventing injury, but I don't track it as well as I could. And then when you go through a spurt of being injured or downtime, whatever the
yeah,
case is, I don't really know what those rehab processes were. I don't have that to look back on and be
mm,
like, okay, what did I do during this similar situation a year ago or 12
yeah,
weeks ago, whatever the case is. So there's another like useful situation that tracking can help you with, right? And it gets me thinking a lot about business. The reason it makes me think about business is because I feel like a lot of times what I've seen in organizations I've been a part of, like we really plan and prepare to get to a starting point or an end point, but maybe we don't actually come back and like look back on or like
mm,
reflect on how we got there,
yeah,
right? And you often talk about, was it AAR,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
And for some reason, I could start thinking about business right now. Like, why don't we do more reflecting within organizations or within small teams?
mm-hmm.
Because that is really going to give us an idea as to what we did well, maybe what we missed in tracking, and then what could we do better when we start something similar, like a project that
Sure,
goes in the
yeah,
same direction. So
no, 100%. I mean, I think that the kind of the after action report, right? That's the AAR, right? Um, I think that is like it's just so valuable when you can sit down. I mean, because if you think about, it's not something that I hardly ever do, but the moments that I have done it, it's like, oh wow, I learned so much, right? And so that's just a habit that you have to get into. But
yeah,
um, when you can just kind of stay surface level, think through the things that occurred, whatever action you're looking at or taking, right? Like, I mean, you could do it for anything. Like, let's say you're doing the laundry, right? You did the laundry. Okay, perfect. You got to the end of it. Let's take a second and think about how could you have done that better? Could you have made it, streamline the process more? Did you have to run each individual item all by itself, or could you have thrown them all in together? Right? Hopefully you don't all throw an individual item by themselves all the time, but like if you do, could we throw them in together? And it's like, okay, yes, that would have made it so I had to run one load instead of 25, right? And so it's like taking things like that and just learning from what you did. Whether it doesn't have to be mistakes, right? It's not always learning from mistakes, but is there an opportunity to do something a little bit better by reflecting on what you did?
Yeah, I got one for you.
Okay.
Using kind of a similar situation, or what you just talked about. It wasn't laundry, but it was dishes.
Ooh.
So I'm the primary cook in our household.
Okay.
I like to think I'm decent. I'm a much better baker. But like the dishes afterwards,
Yeah.
you get done cooking, and I don't know about you, I don't do well about like cleaning up as I go. I just save it all for the end.
Neither do I.
Yeah. So, and it's easy to get frustrated and be like, gosh, I don't want to do all these dishes and like there's other things I want to be doing or whatever the case is. So I finally started timing how long it takes me to clean up after like certain meals that I make.
Oh yeah.
And more often than not, it takes somewhere between 5 to 12 minutes. And I started to realize I get this frustrated over 5 to 12 minutes of just a little extra work.
Yeah.
And in the grand scheme of everything, you just laughed. It's obvious. It doesn't matter. Those 5 to 12 minutes aren't going to be useful for me to do whatever else I wanted to do. Mm-hmm. I can take the time, take the breath, and not get so frustrated. Yeah. But there's a different sort of like tracking, right? Like, can you just time yourself, get some insight from it, and then how can you apply that to being a little bit better, doing a little bit better?
Yeah.
And taking some of that stress off of yourself or whatever the case is.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was something else that I was going to talk about. Lost it.
Well, maybe we can reflect on it and see if it comes back.
Yeah.
Oh man. I don't know. I think that like overall it's obviously tracking can be something that is like an added thing. Yeah. Right? It's an additional thing to do. But I think if you can just figure out how to every once in a while track whatever you're working on, whether it be food, exercise, sleep, stretching. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Maybe you want to watch less TV. Okay. Throw a timer on. See how long it is that you watch TV. Oh, you watched for 3 hours. All right. Can I watch for 2.5? Yeah, I can do that. I can back it off by 30 minutes. Spend that 30 minutes doing something else. Right? I think it's just do a little tracking, do a little reflecting. And if you can just get little bits of that, it's just going to make your life better. Right? Like that's it.
I got something for you. Two things. Go. One, what was your screen time last week? Do you get the report every Sunday?
No,
9 a.m. every Sunday. I get a report. Oh, really?
No, I don't have that set.
Oh, I love it. It's like a game for me. I literally gamify it. I'm not going to tell you my time because of that then. It was only 1 hour and 44 minutes.
For the whole week?
Average per day.
Oh, average per day. I was like, yeah. No, I feel like, that's one thing. That's a big one, right?
Yeah. Oh, I think it's super. I love that little notification.
I might turn that on because honestly, like I don't, as we've talked about before, one of my biggest things that I look up is I'm a big don't stop watching our podcast or listening because of this, but I'm a big Nebraska football fan, right? And so I can't help but I probably can help, but I can't help but get on and look things up and see what's going on, and every day. And so I think that's probably my biggest screen time thing is reading articles about football.
Yeah. Have you ever tracked that before?
Have I tracked it before?
Yeah, like how often? I guess you're kind of talking about that right now, so maybe you should.
Yeah, maybe I should. Maybe I should check it out.
It does break it down if you click on the notification, like what apps you're using.
Yeah.
Like how often. But I was wondering, maybe this might be a great way to end this podcast is like, what if we just rapid fired everything we kind of track?
Ooh, everything we could track or everything we do track?
Yeah, maybe a little bit of like could and do,
Okay.
Like, do you want to go every other?
Sure. Yeah, you start.
Okay. A new one that I started was HRV. So every morning I wake up and put a chest heart rate chest strap on and
Yeah.
lay down for 2.5 minutes, and it gets my HRV
No
score.
way.
Yeah.
That's
And my
cool.
readiness score. Yeah.
Nice. That's kind of fun.
Yeah, it is kind of fun.
All right.
We'll see if I keep it up.
Yeah.
Stay 4.
Well, I mean, do you have to keep it up, or do you just have to do a little bit of it and get some insight?
I'll have to reflect on
Or
that.
let's see, something that I track. I track my exercise minutes. I like on my watch.
Okay.
That's something that I track pretty regularly. Just, I mean, like a lot of it's part of our work incentive program, and so that's honestly been a helpful thing, right? Like it's been that extra push of like, oh, yep, I got to make sure I track those things, and then it tells me too, like, hey, how did I do this week? And I can kind of see because it'll pop up the little streaks. You had a 5-day streak, 7-day streak, so that's something I track.
Nice. I track the amount of books I read in a year, primarily because my wife is a fast reader, so I try to beat her. But I've been tracking now how many books I read in a year.
There you go. Let's see. What else do I track? Oh, I wouldn't say I like write it down, but I have been working really, really hard to pay attention to how much time I spend sitting during the day while I work. So the way I've broken my day up is I try and make sure I'm not sitting for more than an hour at a time, and that hour is up, and then I can get up and move and go do something else.
Do you set a timer for that? How do you do that?
Well, I've specifically scheduled my appointments to track it for me.
Nice.
So
that's smart.
That was very on purpose. My day is blocked out on purpose.
Yeah.
Tell me, oh, that's been an hour. Move.
I like that. That's cool. I mean, this is an obvious one, so I feel like it's cheating, but obviously I track the amount of miles I run in a week. For obvious reasons, because whether I'm building or coming off of a race, whatever the case is, it just helps me keep progressing and trying to get better, faster race times.
Okay, let's see, what else do I track? Gosh, I don't know if I track. I mean, my workouts that I obviously talked about that already. That is, now that we've talked about it, now I'm going to get a new calendar going.
There you go.
Because I've done that once, and I just took a little break for the old injury, and so I'm going to get back on that.
I track my gas mileage. So I have a 2009 Toyota Camry.
There you go. I track that too. Yeah. That's like one of my. I love looking at that.
Yeah. Every time I fill it up, I divide it by how much I put into the tank.
Yeah.
And actually, when I first started doing this, I had a 99 Buick Century, and I, no joke, would write it down in a notepad until finally that notepad ran out. So every time I filled it up, that's how I kept track of it. But then I kind of, once that notepad went away, and it went away once I had the Camry, but I started to realize that it's pretty consistent. I don't know why I kept doing this. Well, so I still keep an eye on it.
I reset mine at about a year, and it was on accident that I did this because I forget why we did it, but I did it, and so now I've got my last year how my gas mileage was, and now I've got this year tracking because you get like trip A and trip B, right? Mm-hmm. Or maybe some cars get more. I get two. And so I get to see what my gas mileage was last year compared to this year. It's a little bit better, a little bit up.
Oh, interesting.
I'm getting a little more. I'm doing a good job.
Are you doing the regular unleaded, or are you doing the? What do I even get? Super unleaded?
I think it's a super unleaded.
Interesting.
I did. We don't have to get into it.
All right, we should probably end this podcast.
Well, no. Like, let's. What's one more thing that someone could track that you don't track, but somebody could track? Let's see.
Well, I think an obvious one is sleep. Mm-hmm. There's so many ways to be tracking sleep right now. Like I said, a lot of us have wearables, so the wearables should be tracking it. And sleep just plays a role into like so many different things. There's studies that show that better sleep increases your diet quality, increases your likelihood to exercise more regularly, increases your mood, your cognition, like all those things. So I think the lowest hanging fruit would be just tracking your sleep. I mean, there's even beds out there now that will track how much sleep you get and the quality of sleep. So I think that would be one thing I would highly recommend most people start by tracking if they're looking for a place to go.
Yeah. And I want to tack something onto that because it's a question that gets brought up a lot. And maybe this is a great podcast for another day talking about sleep, but I feel like since we mentioned it, I want to say this. When you look at the research for how much sleep people need, and you look at the recommendations that have been given by all the different, governing bodies who talk about sleep, the adult sleep recommendation is 7 to 9 plus hours. There's a plus on there that people miss. And so I think it's really important that this comes back to just thinking about each individual is different. Everyone's different. You are your own person. The amount of sleep that you need is absolutely different than somebody else.
Yep.
Maybe it's by a minute. Maybe it's by 3 hours. You gotta look out for you, track for you, not saying, "Oh, I get 7.5. Why do I not feel good?" Have you tried getting 9.5? See what that does. I know that's hard, but
yeah.
So I think that's important.
Yeah, and I'm gonna keep adding to that. Is sometimes these sleep trackers are probably gonna tell you, like, let's say you wake up and you feel like you had a great night of sleep, but it just says, "Oh, you had an awful night of sleep," and your score is X. Well, if you're doing everything right, like let's say, leading up to going to bed, you're having a good wind down routine, you felt like you had a great amount of sleep, and you woke up feeling good, then maybe that might be a time to either reconsider utilizing that sleep tracker or understand that it's just a tool and it's not destiny, right?
Yeah.
You can still have a very good day, whether you have great sleep or poor sleep. It's just a matter of how you go about it. And hopefully more often than not, you're getting great sleep. Last thing I'll add to that is just because I'm curious how much sleep you get. I don't know if you track it. So I think on top of that is the 7 to 9 hours is also time in bed, trying to sleep. It's not necessarily how much time you're getting, right? So I'm pretty good about getting about 7 to 7.5 hours in bed.
Mm-hmm.
But what I mean by that is I'm actually like trying to fall asleep and then waking up. But if you look at the sleep trackers, I'm really only getting probably 6.5 to 7 hours of actual sleep because you wake up, whether you're going to the restroom or just throughout your sleep cycles, right?
Yeah. I probably get about 8.5 to 9 hours
in bed.
Yeah. I would say on a normal day, probably in bed by 10:30, and then probably getting up somewhere between 6:30 and 7.
And do you feel good throughout the day?
On those days,
energy and stuff, yeah.
And that was a big thing that we switched, that we changed, that we worked on. You were there when we were working on hibernation season, right? And that we were shooting for like 10 or 11 hours just to see what it made us feel like, and it was good. Getting enough sleep was awesome. But yeah, all right.
Wait, your turn.
Oh, wait, my turn of tracking something. Yep. Let's see. I think something else that somebody could track. We already kind of mentioned it. I think screen time is a big one that I don't track. That would be really, really good. But I also think, okay, I got it. There we go. Time binging TV episodes. I think that's different than screen time, right? Because the TV episodes, they suck you in, and it's really, really easy for you go from, all right, we're going to watch one episode to now we've watched 6. And so I think if you can, if you track that, see how much time you're spending doing that, and see how that makes you feel, kind of reflect on that.
Yeah. Well, that's something for another time. I like that one though. And here, this is a good place to end, is at the end of this conversation, at the end of the day, whatever the case is, like, there's a lot you can be tracking. There's a lot you can be doing. We kind of touched on this last episode. And I know, like, it probably seems too simple to say it's not that serious, but there's a lot of ways to go about it. There's a lot of ways you can translate or take whatever you want to do and track and put it into your life. Just a matter of sticking to one thing, seeing how it fits. If it doesn't fit, try a different method, and then try and get really good at it. And if you slowly add 1 or 2 things a year, over 10 years, you probably added looking at 10 to 20, right? But just take it slow, add in something, and really try to get some insightfulness out of it.
Yeah.
Don't just be compliant.
Yeah. Reflect,
baby.
Cool.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much. That was the Wellish Podcast. See you later.
Peace.